starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our continuation of the science of triangles. Yes, we probably the next time we get together, we're going to be having daylight saving times ending, at least here in Finland and maybe in other parts of Europe. I'm not exactly sure. Now things start to be a little bit, possibly confusing because there's no the countries in terms of when daylight saving time in the United States. We'll be having the work beginning at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. GMT instead of 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. GMT. Well, okay, we're less than 2 weeks away now from the American election, and I'm sure things will heat up to the almost to the point of insanity, coming quite soon. So we'll have to be very alert about this, because already it has been much said that the results of this election will affect many other countries in the world. Those that are hoping to sustain their democracy and those who want for dictatorships. So we have to do our bit internally, and we continue along that line using Great Invocation number 2. So let us concentrate our attention together. And really call upon these higher agencies, not in an attitude of, worship and adoration, but in an attitude of cooperation. We will do what we can here to bring through the best intentions, and they will foster those intentions. Let the Lords of Liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to the sons of men. Let the rider from the secret place come forth, and coming save. Come forth, O Mighty One. Let the souls of men awaken to the light, and may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of woe has come. Come forth, O Mighty One. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived, and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to serve is here. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O Mighty One, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end. Well, we can see this mantram calls for the de-glamorization and the disillusionment of many millions, if they are really to awaken to the light as souls. The time may lie ahead when this mantram can be used with great power by many more than the small groups who use it now. I think it will involve the discovery of the planet Vulcan. We always seem to discover planets when we're ready to express what they stand for. So in this case, the massed intent, the spiritual will. And we've been told, you know, that in the book of Revelation, that so-called Satan will be bound for 1,000 years. That's not to be taken. An era of peace will supervene. And over that era, the Prince of Peace will preside. The bitter woe of Scorpio will temporarily at least subside. It is, after all, humanity's major sign, that and Leo. So we can look forward to a better time, but have to pass through the turbulent conditions of the transition from the sixth ray Piscean civilization to the seventh ray Aquarian civilization. That's not an easy passage. The saving force is triple, and it involves love and activity. It involves the first three aspects of divinity in combination. We have to work out a time when we can continue examining what DK has said about these two preliminary great invocations. So the possibility of a widespread distribution of the saving force is with us. And whenever we're dealing with Aquarius, whether that which is to be distributed is good or bad, it is the sign of circulation and distribution, a sign in which we realize we're all in this together. So we have to see if we can foretell the consequences of our choices. We have a very momentous choice before us, and where will either possibility in that choice lead? We have to begin to see that. So, you know, we are continuing then for the next couple of weeks until the election with this mantram, this great invocation. And from what everybody understands, it may be even more critical to continue afterwards, because we expect a lot of cheating going on, underhanded things. So we'll have to keep the continuity here of this invocation going. I'm glad to see you all here. I just want to welcome you, Anne and Anna and Annette and Antoinette and Ario and Aurea and Barbara, Catherine, Georgina, Hélène, Ishtar, and I think maybe it's Judy. Anyway, it says J-O separated, so hi and welcome. Then Joe Garso and Joan and Johi, Karen, Catherine, Carrie, Lorraine, Mariana, Mariut, Miro, Natni, and Nesa, and Yenka, Risto, Sandra, Tia, Vicky, Winnie, Yvonne, and Zenaidi. And maybe Michael, if there are any technical issues or things that need to be handled there with question marks and so forth, maybe see what you can do to communicate in these preliminary matters. Okay, now we'll go on to, we're on, as far as I know, program 84, and we're on page 492, I guess. And 21st of October. Now he's going to start showing us some different triangles, and if there's time, and I may simply ask you some questions about what triangles you would use for what kind of processes. And maybe, it will demonstrate whether we have managed to assimilate the meaning of these signs of the zodiac and these planets in relation to each other. We've been looking at some of the major sources of array, and also try to understand why the other aspects of particular ray triangles are not really so active. Oh, and by the way, I just want to say I'm grateful to our group over here of BL, Joe, and Michael and Tuya, helping us on the other side, on the right-hand column, not from beyond the grave. Okay. So we've had a number of points about different signs that are either very active or not active. And Taurus and Scorpio and Gemini and so forth, and Libra, Aquarius. We've more and more, that sign Aquarius is becoming active in its triangle, and I would say we are dealing with the triangle in revolution, much reinforced in the fifth ray zone, by the incoming Aquarian age, which according to the Tibetan technically begins in the year 2117, which is interestingly the same year as another one of those transits of Venus across the face of the sun does occur. So some of these are triangles which are mutating, they are changing, and we're in transition periods from one dominant sign to another dominant sign carrying the same ray. Coming into the, as they call it, Aquarius will be coming into the controlling position. I mean, it's very likely that we will live quite a few or pass quite a few incarnations in and under the sign Aquarius. When you live in a sign, it's the sun sign. When you live under a sign, it's the rising sign. And it much depends on the country in which you live. Some people live in Aquarian countries where the soul is concerned. But in general, all of humanity will be affected by this very mobile, diversifying energy, the energy now for us of the future, but always in a way of the future, always forward looking. Wherever you have Jupiter prominent, there's the possibility of a forward looking attitude because it's a great planet of expanding vision. So we have more to say, though, about Leo. It is interesting to have in mind that Ray 5 governs the evolution of consciousness. When we think about moving from the animal kingdom, let us say, into the human kingdom, Ray 5 plays a very prominent role. It was during the third root race that this occurred. And even if we go back to the moon chain, somewhere the numbers 3 and 5 are prominent in terms of when important developments took place regarding consciousness on the moon chain. You can probably look that up in Cosmic Fire. If you put down a 3 and a 5 and the word chain, you might find it. I'm not going to deviate right now with that. But the idea of being able to recognize yourself in the looking glass, there is Venus that it looks a lot like a mirror in its symbolism, and a kind of I-ness consciousness comes with the work of Venus. Venus has a fifth ray soul, and under Venus and under Leo, the fifth sign, it was possible to begin discriminating between the recognition of a newly separated self and everything else. In other words, under this fifth ray of cleavage and separation, the little I came into focus. And of course, Leo helps there, Leo and Venus. And that was what was necessary in order to give newly individualized animal man his sense of being a distinct and separate entity. Also, the idea is with us that whereas the most luminous of soul types is the second ray soul. The most radiant and luminous ray lord in Shambhala, and probably the most advanced in a certain sense, is the fifth ray lord, even as Venus is not necessarily the most mature of all the planetary logoi, but the most unfolded within its own destined range of unfoldment. In other words, a fast evolver, the fifth ray. So all that light, contributes to the evolution of consciousness. And we really need to rise out of glamorous darkness. The fifth ray in the technique of light and using the Ajna Center and all of these exercises in glamour world problem, they do involve the fifth ray. So we have to learn to use the fifth ray to discover that which is hidden, and not necessarily to be skeptical about that which is hidden and occult and causative. That's a liability, shutting out the higher spiritual energies through skepticism. Of course, we don't want to be foolish either. We want to be able to judge as to what is really possible. I've seen some fifth ray types that have trouble meditating because their mind is so concrete that it just cuts them off from higher inspiration and they fall asleep during meditation. I've seen this in 3 particular instances, and I was wondering what it was, and then the generalization came to me. I saw the same thing operating. The Antakarana was not in the process of being built, even though the mind, in the lower sense, was very good. So have in mind then that Ray 5 has to do with the evolution of consciousness. And, as we work through our many incarnations, we will obviously have at different times the first ray, fourth ray, and fifth ray minds, or, mental elementals. However, other types of mind may enter as well, but they would be more the rarity and therefore there for specific purposes. Okay, through the revolution, they govern the evolution of consciousness, the fifth ray, through the revolution of its triangle, Leo, Sagittarius, Aquarius. So, maybe a question would be, what is one of the triangles that governs the evolution of consciousness and why? Well, and you might want to suggest on the basis of what you might learn here, or what I might learn, Leo, Sagittarius, Aquarius. This is a very Masonic triangle, I must admit. This is from the angle of hierarchical effort, as I earlier pointed out. Well, it all depends where we begin, because in a way, hierarchy is entered at the first initiation, and maybe to a certain extent even before. If, for instance, let's see how I would do this. Yeah, I have an idea. Let's see if, there it is. This blue circle is called, in the diagram, planetary hierarchy. I'm making it a little bigger But what do we find there? Included within the hierarchy, not just the masters of the wisdom. We find included within the blue circle the 4 grades of initiates, 1, 2, 3, 4, the various grades of disciples. Some of them may be initiates of the threshold, but some of them may not have taken even the first initiation yet, but are on the way. And even people on the probationary path. That's what it is saying down here inside the blue circle. So it says from the angle of hierarchical effort. Well, when does aspiration really begin? And one cannot say, well, X number of years have to pass before aspiration begins, but we know that certainly millions of years must pass. Millions of years of incarnational life before we have real aspiration. And interestingly, it's in relation to Leo. Not only is the first initiation in relation to Leo, but during the process of unfolding the 5th petal, which is the Leo-Scorpio petal, at least the way I calculated, aspiration begins after the fall. There's a play about that, isn't it? Arthur Miller, After the Fall. And we expect for every egotist and on behalf of the welfare eventual of every egotist, we expect a fall from the blasted tower. Now, once that fall occurs, the door is open to become an aspirant and eventually a first-degree initiate. So maybe that's what it means from the angle of hierarchical effort, because basically this is one of the triangles of initiation. First initiation, Leo. Second initiation, Sagittarius. Also, it has something to do with the first. And third initiation, it's the Aquarius, not only the second initiation of fellowship, brotherhood, sisterhood, but the third initiation can enter. Actually, Aquarius is an interesting sign because initiations 2, 3, 4, and 5 all can be taken with a strong Aquarius influence. I mean, it helps along the way. If you want to study this video book about the egoic lotus, it's on Makara, and I've looked at the initiatory potential of each of the signs and where these initiations, where they show up related to a particular sign. So the evolution of consciousness, just looking at it, I would say self-consciousness, Leo, aspirational consciousness, and the one-pointed discipleship consciousness, Sag, and ever-increasing degrees of group consciousness, Aquarius. See, everything is a process. When you look at a triangle, there's always a 1, 2, 3. And what is leading? That is the question. And if you take them in order, Aquarius is obviously the climactic sign. So from the angle of hierarchical effort, meaning the person is at least an aspirant. Thanks, BL, for putting that up there. the link to the book, video book on the occult lotus. Throughout human evolution, this major triangle governs the relation of humanity through the mind to the hierarchy. Well, to move from being the individual Leo into the hierarchy Aquarius, we need the aspirational mind of Sagittarius, which will help us in the process of shooting the arrow, which becomes that returning arrow we can call the Antikarana. In the early days, 21 million years ago, and in Sagittarius, the solar angel shot an arrow into the higher mental plane, an aspect of itself which implanted itself within the region of the mind and even within the brain, and maybe within the heart as well. There are several anchor points that the solar angel has when it invests itself in the human frame. So this major triangle, Leo, Sagittarius, Aquarius, all giving the fifth ray on some level, governs the relation of humanity through the mind to the hierarchy. Now, does hierarchy have to be approached through the mind? Well, students of our type think if you want to do it reliably, yes, you have to approach through the mind, because the hierarchy is called, and this qualifies what it is, the Society of Organized and Illumined Minds. What have I said here? The relation of humanity to the hierarchy is through the mind, or at least there is a major rapport through the mind, because you want to do it accurately, scientifically, every time, and not by happenstance inspiration. Taking the astral Buddhic leap into hierarchy, that's good, that's fine, but it's not predictable. And the thing about science is that when you follow the right steps, the result is pretty well guaranteed. And that kind of certainty is what we want. We want to make the science of initiation a very certain process, and then more and more people will recognize the need to ascribe to that system of knowledge, because it will elevate them predictably. Okay. So through the mind to the hierarchy, and the approach of that hierarchy to the human center of energy. In other words, the soul, after the invocation is made by the man, well, who knows what comes first? Okay. In a way, the soul invokes the man invokes the soul evokes the man evokes the soul. It's a Gemini two-way street, you might say. And it is interactive. So for hierarchy, the illumination of the human mind is a big deal. There have just been so many millions of years in which humanity is immersed in glamour. And we see it today, you know, we see it in the effective demagoguery of selfish, narcissistic, egotistical leaders manipulating the crowd, mass consciousness, through various kinds of glamours and, to a certain extent, illusions. We see people just not knowing the truth. Maybe they're not, there yet, as it were, have not had enough incarnational experience, but they don't know the truth and they are bewildered. And they don't know they are bewildered. Well, that's the whole thing about all of us. So often we entertain psychological states of which we are unaware, only to have them pointed out later to realize that we have been doing these fallible exercises for many, many years and lifetimes. And maybe we're a little bit shocked by what we see. The light that shocks, you see. I think first-rate types experience this when they realize that they have not been loving. Just study the technique of integration for the first ray and you'll see some remarkable changes of method when that discovery is made. Okay, so we've got mutual approach, and we have to be aware that there is this exchange via Gemini, and to a certain extent, via Libra as the point oscillates, trying to find the center between the higher of the pairs of opposites and the lower. Let me recall to your attention, never hurts, right? Let me recall to your attention the following facts in this connection. I'm not sure where he dealt with it before, but here it is. The approach of the hierarchy. 18 and a half million years ago. And it's Lemurian in date. Now, I suppose there had to have been a hierarchy on the moon chain because there's never a lack of continuity. The god of the planet takes care that the method of instruction is continuous. And when there is an interruption, such as there was on the moon chain, leaving a gap between the mental unit and the monastic permanent atom, well, then the method of bridging that gap is given. So the approach, this looks like the Leo approach, and it's always proceeding, even when hierarchy is behind the scenes, as it, I think, judiciously decided was necessary following the results of the Great Atlantean War. So this happened in the past, and this illumination came to man. I am something. I am a being, and I'm different from others. And hierarchy continues to nurture this until the individual consciousness gives way to group consciousness. So the approach of the hierarchy under Leo, not only the first of the great monastic initiations for which we are preparing, the birth of the Christ in the heart, is ruled by Leo, but the emergence out of the unconscious animal state long ago is ruled by Leo as well. A number of these signs and planets naturally combined to make it possible for most of modern humanity to emerge from the instinctual animal state in the middle of the Lemurian period. That's what the occult doctrine is telling us. Okay, now with Sagittarius, we have mental unfoldment. And you know, there's a lot about that centaur, which is very instinctual, and the animal nature is very, very strong. But then Sagittarius has the mental quest as part of its dynamic. So fifth ray Sagittarius wants to get out there and discover how things are beyond the normal horizon. And there's where the intellect comes into play. You know, if you're a geographer, you know, taking the common examples, or an anthropologist, or you know, you go to study the terrain of different countries, and maybe even a geologist, and certainly the different customs of different people. And some of those books are, you know, very, very fifth ray in their nature. It's this urge to go beyond the pale, beyond the fence, beyond the boundary, and taking one's concrete mind with one to learn how things really are elsewhere. Sometimes I've seen on TV some very open-hearted, wonderful explorers who want to, it seems I'm thinking of two of them particularly. They have their own programs, and they go to different places all over the world, and they study the ways that the people act and interact, and they bring back a report. And it's always fascinating, and it's based on facts. It's the intellect at work. So Sagittarius eventually is considered one of the intuitive signs. And once the Antakarana is built, the arrow is shot along the Antakarana into the spiritual triad, and into the realm of the Buddhic plane where the intuition can be found. So, you know, with Leo, it's more the sense of separate identity. And Leo, of course, really cultivates the concrete mind, very much so. It has this strong fifth ray, and it is connected with what is called the will to illumine, the will to illumine. And it all begins with concentration, you know, getting the inchoate mental tendencies, which are all over the place, that sort of monkey mind all over the place, into a more focused, laser-like appreciation of specifics. So with Sagittarius, all three of these are operative. As DK has given the names of the Blue Lodge degrees, Leo governs the Entered Apprentice. Well, the name just carries the meaning, doesn't it? You're new, and you have to learn by following the guidance of a supervisor. Sagittarius is a different matter. It says, the work of the master mason to raise humanity to the mountaintop of initiation, or at least to guard the gate, because Sagittarius is called the guardian of the gate. If I can just kind of find that. It's on that, you know, one of those favorite pages kind of thing. Astrology, and page 333. And here we have the controller of the gate, determining whether you can pass onto the rugged path, which under Capricorn makes factual the climbing of the mountain. I think Sagittarius will take you to the foot of the mountain. and it may tell you when you are fit to travel further, when you've accomplished the first and second degree, and you've killed a number of those Stymphalian birds, these birds of heavy illusion and glamours, then Sagittarius can direct you forward to according to its great vision and share that vision with you. Page 333 of Esoteric Astrology. So let's see if I can find this other. Okay. Now, actually, I want to adapt a little bit of what I said. It's not incorrect, but I can see that he has a different system here. And Sagittarius also governs the past and the approach through the arrow of consciousness of hierarchy, but it governs a very high state later, that of the Master Mason. And what does the Master do? He raises humanity. Now, those familiar with the Masonic rituals, and you can get a lot out of those from Manly Hall's description of things, we have to raise the dead master, raise him from the dead. He's been killed by the lower elemental nature. And we have to find a way to pull him up out of that state of death. Now, so this is maybe not as quite as straightforward as simply going from Leo to Sagittarius to Aquarius. That does exist. That order does exist. Leo was individualization. Sagittarius is ongoing aspiration to a higher state, and Aquarius is reaching that higher state in the future. So there's a couple of ways of looking at this. In my view, Sagittarius rules the ninth petal of the egoic lotus, and when that petal is unfolded, you are ready for the third initiation. You're just about at that point. As a matter of fact, when all nine petals are unfolded, you are basically taking the third initiation. So when you have a chart with Sagittarius and Capricorn together, it depends on where you are in the evolutionary process, but it does open the door. You are guided, and the higher initiation is a possibility. Okay. Now let's see. Leo, in this particular rearrangement, I guess Leo is somehow in the middle, which is interesting. Okay. What I'll do is, this is, yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3, go. I'll try to separate these out. So there's a reason, what I'm trying to say is there's a reason to put Sagittarius in the middle position, and there's a reason to put Sagittarius in the past. And from another point of view, when you combine Sagittarius with Leo and Aries, Sagittarius governs the way into the future. Now, let's look at it the way DK has it. And that is with Leo and the next group of dynamics. So he calls this the present. He calls this the present. The work of the hierarchy to raise mass consciousness. Now, Sagittarius does that too, But Leo brings you into the sphere of the great sunflower, of the great egoic lotus, of that which stands for the heart and for the sun of our system under normal circumstances. It is what we find of ourselves on the higher mental plane, the temple of Solomon, or as Manly Hall calls it, the temple of solar man. And he calls this the present. And he says to capitalize on the original impetus of this sign. What was the original impetus of the sign Leo? To differentiate you from the mass and to have you at least awaken and extract yourself from the mass of unconscious animal life. And later, in the process, to extract yourself from the mass consciousness, to become the true point. Now, interestingly, he begins to speak of psychic development, or maybe what we can call a higher form of psychism. There is a lower form of psychism that we had in Atlantean days, but once the Ajna Center really begins to open, then the higher psychism beginning on the higher mental plane begins to emerge. So in general, the growth of the response apparatus and the synthesis of the inner awareness. So we become truly, under Leo, an integrated being. Now, there's a lot about integration in Sagittarius as well, because of the one-pointed linear, vertically linear association with that sign. So when you're really seeking alignment, Sagittarius is very useful. It lines you all up like this after you get through the stage of, going on errant quests. Okay, now here, yes, indeed, the work of the Entered Apprentice, to learn and acquire knowledge. Well, Leo also rules a very high form of Entered Apprentice. You may be an Entered Apprentice as far as hierarchy is concerned, and do that under Leo, but when are you an Entered Apprentice as far as Sirius is concerned? And that is at the fifth initiation ruled by Leo. Again, Leo. Leo is mastership. And Sirius is so high that we are not even at the first stage until we are a master of the wisdom under Leo, having taken the third solar and the fifth normal initiation. They are the same. Initiation number 5 is solar initiation. Number 3 is Sirian, initiation number 1, the Entered Apprentice. And really, if you think about where we stand on the path, all of us are somehow, we're just beginning, The further you go, the less you know. At least for a while, that is the case. Or the more humble you become, because you begin to, even in the very first books, realize what it takes to make a master. We're doing a lot of work now on Letters on Occult Meditation, and it's just profound, and it's one of the early books, Now, the next section of this triangle, see, you can look at it in different ways. Sagittarius first, Leo next, or Leo first, and the aspirational arrow of Sagittarius next, ruling the first and second initiations. But now let's see what the next one is. The next one, okay, and I just want to make sure that I'm doing this correctly. The achievement of the hierarchy, okay, that's what that is. So, Aquarius, now it means many things. Generally, we could not say so much that the very first initiation, the birth of the Christ in the heart, is taken under Aquarius. Lots of Leo, yes, but Aquarius not so much, except for one thing. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is given as the ruler of the sacral center, which is the center of procreativity, transferring its energy at the first initiation to the throat center, which is the center of creativity. And eventually, Uranus and the seventh ray have a period in which they rule that throat center, even though they begin in the sacral center. So from that point of view, the sign Aquarius can be considered useful in taking the first initiation. Human achievement is found in the second of this series of three. And now we find the achievement of the hierarchy. And here's a very important statement. The self-consciousness of Leo gives place to the group consciousness of Aquarius. Now, that can be the third initiation, but also it is the FC degree in Masonry. And DK talks about the kind of fellowship, which a sisterhood, brotherhood that develops at that point of the second degree, which is much related to Aquarius. So already at the second degree, Aquarius is very active and continues its activity in the third, fourth, and fifth degree. Then in comes Sagittarius again for that big journey at the sixth degree. Okay, so this is hierarchical achievement. And from the time you take the second initiation, you have entered the stream. You know, in The Secret of the Golden Flower, that little book by Blavatsky, which is so poetic and so beautiful, and which is a translation of an Eastern original, we find that you are borne along towards the ashram, which Aquarius represents by the ashramic current, which we find in Aquarius. So you're not just swimming under your own power only, you are also borne along by and uplifted in the water by the current. And Aquarius, interesting, an air sign with many water sign associations. And it governs the future. Well, that's pretty obvious. I mean, 100 years from now, we're going to be entering the age of Aquarius for good, hopefully for good. And this entry is for us the future, but just in general, that sign governs the future and all kinds of new possibilities which are subtle and which have not been thought of before. So the merging of the human center and the hierarchy. Now, this is very interesting. Dane Rudyard, the astrologer, points out that there's no such thing as a stick with only one end. So, you know, there's an axis. And what we're entering now is the age of Aquarius Leo. Now, maybe some 12,500 years ago, or ahead, we entered or will enter the age of Leo Aquarius. but there's always that reflexive sign 180 degrees opposite, which carries many implications for rounding out one's nature. So Aquarius is about the merging of the human center and the hierarchy, and brings about soul expansion. It's pretty hard to put a boundary around Aquarius. It just kind of spreads out, circulates, and includes everything, and is called the sign of universality, or universal love even. So we recognize in Aquarius all those relations that exist within the sphere of our experience, recognition of relation, and therefore, if I can say this, whoops, I never know which computer I'm on here. Therefore, the incoming of pure reason. Because what is pure reason except a very accurate recognition of relationships? First through the mind, and Aquarius is a very mental sign, we're going to see, has a lot to do with universal mind as well as universal love, and then through the intuitional aspect of pure reason. So now he gives you the name of another Masonic degree. He's not so worried about revealing these names. Everybody knows them anyway. So not the Entered Apprentice, but the Fellow Craft, which is the second degree, extremely Aquarian, and has to do with brotherhood, sisterhood, and the bringing together of the group as a truly harmonious, creative unit. So the building and service of the temple of humanity. And, you know, so this tells us that Aquarius is connected, much connected with the building of the Temple of Solomon, i.e. the causal body or egoic lotus. You know, you can get something of value out of any sign you're born with. And you've gone a certain distance in your evolution, and almost anything that you get in your birth chart and your other inner charts, they can be used to help advance you on your next step forward. But sometimes specific signs have a specific use for you, just the way we're told that the soul sounds its note, the note of the causal body, before incarnation, and notices where there are holes in the development, and then supplies some kind of energy which will fill in those blank spaces. And it's that way too with astrology. The note is sounded, and here are all of these astrological substances. The question is, what will help you in your next step? You could almost, even right now, you could think in a soul alignment of what you as a soul infusing personality in your next incarnation want to become. And you might hit upon the sign or series of signs which would be of use to you. And who knows, maybe they will even show up. Excuse me, that was a sneeze coming, you know? Okay, so I think we've reached the point now. I know I'm spending a lot of time on a short bit of text, but it does give you the sense of progress. And I've said here that the signs are out of order, with Sagittarius coming first and Leo second. But of course, yeah, and lastly, Aquarius in the proper order. But we can make sense out of either one. We can put Leo first, Sagittarius second, and then Aquarius, and it makes sense. We can put Sagittarius first, Leo second, and it makes sense. There's this section that I've showed you. It's probably an Esoteric Astrology or maybe a Treatise in White Magic, where the solar angels shoot like arrows into the constitution of animal man. But only 3 million years later when a Leo phase is entered, does the man awaken to the fact that he has been individualized. That is a very important idea. Arrow and awaken, arrow and Leo. Well, this CD-ROM is wonderful. And now let's see, it looks like it's Esoteric Astrology, but I can't be sure. So no, this is not the one. Leo, Sagittarius, Sun, and now let's see if I can find it. Well, yeah, that's it. No, that's not it. All right. It's important reference, and I'm not finding it. Let's see if I can use the word Leo and arrow. I think maybe I already did that. Yeah, I did. Well, okay, I'm not finding it, and I always do find it, but someone can find it. There is the word awaken, I think, and Leo, awaken, Sun, and let's try that. One more. No. Okay, well, it's hiding from me right now, so I can't get it. But the idea, I could get it if I went into my AAB extracts. The idea is you have to wait quite a long time after the Sagittarius event when the arrows shot forth from the bow. Ah, the word bow. Bow, Leo. Let's see. No, I'm still not making it. Well, maybe one of our staff people, the communications team, can find this thing. Anyway, it took a long time before the actual impregnation by the solar angel evolved into recognizable self-consciousness. And that was during a Leo period that happened. Right, friends, so, let's see if there's anything else here Yeah, but there's going to be another triangle, but I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it because it'll be a whole nother discussion. And maybe we'll take that up next time. All right, basically we've looked at a process. Sagittarius, Leo, Aquarius, Leo, Sagittarius, Aquarius. And I'll bring this down here. And this should have been the word beginning. And now I'll just go down a little bit more. Not much. What page are we on? 493? Yes, we are. And our next occasion, unless some full moon interferes with it, will be Science of Triangles number 85. And it'll be 493. And it will be the 28th. That'll be a daylight saving time ending, at least here in Finland, and morning session. Okay. I hope I'm correct there. If not, maybe one of our group can indicate to me that I'm not correct. Okay. So
and that's at 6 a.m. GMT.
Yeah, okay, right, exactly. Good point. 492, 493, and this is the end of number 84. Is that what we just ended? We ended 84. And now, and we're going to begin at 6 a.m. GMT. And let's look at this, and I'll make it a bit bigger, right? So that we'll all note that. All right. So now it's your turn for questions on this subject that we have reviewed about the 3 degrees of Masonry: Entered Apprentice, Fellowcraft, and Master Mason. 3 degrees of the so-called Blue Lodge, and there are even maybe a couple more that we would want to include, but we'll just stick with the 3. The order of a certain triangle given as Sagittarius the past, Leo the present, and Aquarius the future, or in natural order, Leo the past, individualization, Sagittarius aspiration, and Aquarius that towards which the aspiration is aimed. So hence the future possibilities. And then, of course, different types of people are found representing the different stages today. The initiates of the 1st degree, particularly Leo. Initiates of the 2nd degree, involving Sagittarius, but also Scorpio, and each sign has more than one particular initiation associated with it. And with Aquarius, certainly the 2nd initiation, but the 3rd as well and beyond. So there's a lot of indications packed into that little section about the past, present, and future. So, Michael, if you'd be so kind as to, if there are any questions, and I'm going to do a little, I'm going to try something, and we'll see whether it really works or not. And let's see, arrow. Oh, I know, I can't do that. Okay, now I'll try it again. And Manascent, balance, pairs of opposites, Hindu, lower mind. Okay. Well, I guess it's just going to hide from me. I don't like it when a reference escapes. But I think it's in Treatise on White Magic, actually, that it can be found. Maybe the word bow would be better. I'm a bit tenacious, I'm sorry to say, and nothing immediately there. And then, of course, once the program is over, I will find it immediately, naturally. I'm going to just take one little look here. It has to do with the solar angel as well. So, yeah, and I will look at that. This is, I guess, called obsession of some kind, right? Okay, I'll let it go. All right, is there anybody that has something they would like to say or ask, etc.?
Well, during your lecture, Marianne's hand was raised.
Mariana, was it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and but maybe you've thought twice about the matter.
Mariana, you're self-muted. Is there a question you'd like to ask?
Maybe not. Okay. Let me is there anybody else? Or because if there isn't, I have maybe a little something in mind. Anybody else?
She wrote that was a mistake.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
That raised hand. Okay.
I understand how that goes. Okay, anybody? Because if not, I can ask a question, and then you can answer. Okay, I think. All right. Let's see. Ho, ho, ho. All right. There it is. All right. Now, and I wonder, it is in a treatise on white magic, page 440. And this is relevant to what we have been studying. The sun was in Sagittarius when the first human tendencies struggled to the fore. The stage of animal man was completed. And when Sagittarius was dominant from the planetary standpoint, I'm using words with care, probably, there was some kind of orientation of the vernal equinox towards the constellation Sagittarius. When Sagittarius was dominant from our planetary standpoint, the great event of individualization took place. Now, but here's the point. But the brain of the then human being failed to register what had happened. Okay. And then it says, the sons of God shot forth like arrows from the bow. Now, if I had put the plural on arrow, I would have gotten it. The sons of God shot forth like arrows from the bow. The forms received the impulse, and lo, a God was born. The tiny babe knew not the great event. This took place 21 million years ago. Cycles passed, and when at a later date the sun was in Leo, probably, planetarily, approximately 18 million years ago, the first instances of coordination between brain and mind took place, and the human being was definitely self-conscious. He registered his individuality. So that's the one I was looking for, and you can see how we could look at Sagittarius as the beginning, and even from another perspective, we can look at Leo as involved in that beginning as well. So that's page 440, and I'm going to make sure that I don't lose it this time. Okay. TWM 440. All right. Now, is there anybody that has anything you want to ask or say before I ask you a question?
I am seeing no hands raised, and there are no comments.
Yvonne has raised her hand.
Yay!
Right?
Yes.
Yay. Okay. Okay.
I want you to explain it. That you mentioned when the human body or when the human being is coming into incarnation, the soul looks at it and fills in the empty spaces, like fills it in with what? Or could you expound on that a little bit more? You said
it's a
places.
Question of qualities, like for instance, sometimes we're lacking development along one ray or another. We've had a lot of incarnations where different rays were emphasized, but maybe we haven't built, there's a whole area of virtue in which we are deficient. So right in the beginning of Letters on Occult Meditation, it talks about sounding the note of the causal body and seeing what's missing, what virtues. Now, he says a very frequent event is that 6-ray mystics who have been working on that aspirational devotional line for a long time are missing the common sense practicality of the 5th ray. So then a 5th ray mind or personality is chosen accordingly in order to help fill in the missing vibrations in the causal body. So let's see if I can, let's see, yeah, 5th ray, okay. Here is something in Letters on Occult Meditation. And of course, it looks like it's, let's see, I mean adaptation. Okay, hold on. During a 5th period, no, that's not it. And that's not it. But it's right in the beginning of the book on Letters on Occult Meditation. And it has to do with choosing the ray of the personality. If I could find it, it's right there, and but again, I'd have to find the exact words. Mystic, practical, words like that. But just take my word for it. It does exist.
Oh, I believe you, and I have the book, but is it choosing the ray of the personality? I just thought that the attracted to itself matter that it had earned in the previous incarnations at that level. But so is it the soul that chooses what personality this new thing's going to have?
Solar angel is involved in the choice
Solar
because
angel, yeah. Okay.
yeah, solar angel is involved in that, and you know, it's right in the very beginning of the book. It has to do with choosing meditations. In other words, assigning meditations. So it would be probably right here, alignment of the ego and the personality, and alignment, let's see. I guess, again, this is not my night for locating for locating the references I want. But it's right here. I know that.
Okay, Michael, I can read it.
You find it?
No, I said I can read it. Did somebody find it?
Okay. It's right here. Points to consider when assigning meditation. I'm pretty sure it's right in there. The ray of the personality or lower self. Now, this is how to destroy a causal body. And there's something here about the ray of the personality. Maybe it's right here. A practical illustration. Okay, maybe this is it, page 20. Let me illustrate, if I can, elucidate the matter. We will assume that the egoic ray, yeah, this is it, Yvonne. We will assume that the egoic ray of A is that of love or wisdom, while the ray of his lower self is that of the fifth or concrete ray of concrete knowledge. A in the past has demonstrated love and has made real progress in the method of the synthetic ray, ray 2, that of expansion. He loves much and expands with fair facility his consciousness to include a just part of his environing circumstances. But though of average intelligence, he lacks the stabilizing vibration that attaches to the fifth ray. He has not that concentration that forces results, and he needs the basic foundation of facts before he can wisely and safely proceed further. The wise teacher, in apprehending this necessity, uses the method of expansion inherent in the egoic ray and applies it to the expansion of the mental body. Now, somewhere it does tell us how he got that fifth ray body, because the ego sounded its note and noticed something was missing. Okay, so it's right in this area. I'm not sure it's exactly this paragraph. But it's an interesting paragraph, page 20 and 21, and somewhere the ego is sounding its note and noticing, oh, our friend A, the personality we're supervising, does not have enough of what the Tibetan just described. So look in this area of the book, and I think you will find what you need.
Thank you. That's very interesting.
Yeah. And then you kind of wonder, how you ended up with the personality you have right now, because we're still at the point where the solar angel has to get into the act. We may be within our own higher self aware of what's going on now because we've progressed quite a bit. But, you know, chances are the master and the solar angel are cooperating in determining what will be the personality ray, or whether a mental ray will be chosen accordingly, and so forth. Okay, what is it? Well, it's right above here, isn't it?
Yeah, Michael, take a look at the bottom of page 19.
Yeah, I was just saying it's okay. Well, you read that, Michael. Go ahead.
We have somewhat dealt with the first factor, the egoic ray, in determining the method of meditation. Today, we might take up the function of the personality ray in determining this method. As you know, the personality ray is ever a sub-ray of the spiritual ray and varies with greater frequency than the egoic ray. With evolved egos, such as may be contacted among the thinkers of the race, and among the prominent workers in all departments of world work everywhere, the personality ray may vary from life to life, each life being based on a different note and demonstrating a different color. In this way, the causal body is more rapidly equipped. When the reincarnating unit has reached a point where he can consciously choose his mode of expression, he will first review his past lives, and from the knowledge gained thereby, he will guide his choice for the next. Prior to incarnation, he will sound his egoic note, and will note the lack of fullness or the discord it may contain. He will then decide upon which note he will base his coming personality vibration.
And then, and then it elaborates on that, correcting the discord and rounding things out. And then he tells us about very frequently the fifth ray is needed. So this is the section right here. So thanks. I knew we were getting close.
Thank you both. Thank you both.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to say, of what does egoic consciousness consist at a certain point of development, which is not just the beginning? And here's what I want to say. It consists of the consciousness of the angel of the presence and the consciousness of the developing man, who is an extension of the monad, and the consciousness of the master. And the egoic consciousness is kind of an outpost of his consciousness. So from the perspective I have at the moment, 3 lines of influence exist in what we call the consciousness of the ego on the higher mental plane. Solar angelic angel of the presence consciousness, your own consciousness as an extension of the monad, and the master's influence. And sometimes, when we do our triangles meditation, you see here is the master, here's the solar angel, and here is your head center. So they're both contributing. All 3 at a relatively advanced stage of development of the aspirant are working together to produce what we call egoic consciousness on the higher mental plane. Okay, well, we won't lose that one again, will we? Okay, other thoughts or questions?
No more questions or comments yet written into the chat box, and I am looking for any hands raised, but do not see any yet.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Y'all, if you wanted to create a triangle which helped over a period of lives to move from the first to the second to the third initiation, including them all, which triangle would you choose and why? I'll repeat the question. If you wanted to select a triangle that embraced the possibility of the first, second, and third initiations, which triangle would you choose, which had very markedly those potentials to include all three initiations? I'm reversing the tables now. Any thoughts? I know the BL and Joe and Michael and two of you probably know this because they've studied it a long time. But anybody initially first that has an idea of what kind of triangle you would visualize or conceive that could take in those three initiations.
And we have an answer from J.O.
Okay.
Sagittarius, Leo, and Aquarius.
Oh, okay. Actually, what we're studying right now, and Jo, that is correct in the sense that we have been studying it, because Aquarius is associated with the third degree, and Sagittarius with both the first and second degree, and Leo with the first degree and the third degree. So yes, all of those three signs can formulate a triangle which would embrace the possibility of taking those three initiations. Now, if I were to ask, which triangle is composed of signs which are most associated with those three initiations, what would be said? Because this Sagittarius, Leo, Aquarius, or Leo, Sagittarius, Aquarius is a possibility, definitely a possibility according to what we've been studying. But if we look at the signs which are most characteristic of those three degrees, and we take them, we formulate them as a triangle, it would be yet a different answer. Does anybody have an idea of what it would be? See, this is like a little quiz, a pop quiz. You know what I mean? It's good to see. Okay, we absorb a lot of knowledge, but then can we use it? That's the question. Anybody here have an idea?
Karen's hand is raised.
Okay. Okay.
You're self-muted, Karen.
Cannot wait. She cannot take an attendee is self-muted. How can we get rid of there? Now she's just self-muted, so you can
Karen.
unmute yourself, Karen. You just have to press that hand. That if you have an orange hand, and actually she's had her hand up for quite a while. Anything? Can you go green, Karen? This looks like we're having a little trouble.
While she's working on that, Vicky has written Sagittarius first, Scorpio second, Capricorn third.
Okay, you know, if I was the quiz master, I would say you got 2 out of 3. Indeed, as you say, Capricorn is the sign most associated with the third initiation, and Scorpio is the sign most associated with the second initiation. What is the sign most associated with the first initiation?
Karen writes Virgo, and she is having trouble unmuting herself.
Okay, actually, Virgo is one of those signs, and so is Gemini, but it doesn't answer the $64,000 question. Of course, that seems like peanuts these days, but Virgo is correct, indeed, in a certain sense. Virgo is the first initiation sign. Gemini is the first initiation sign. The sign most associated either in or under. Well, I will give it away, won't I? In, under, there's so many. Take, initiation. Let's see. Like I say, this is not my day for finding references, but I may be able to do this without, I mean, I know what it is, but I just like to find for you the, okay, well, now I'm just going to have to take the plunge. In, under, Leo. It is the sign Leo. And if I could find it, you know, there's several of these. As I go through here, maybe someone will make sure that I don't pass it by. And takes it, and takes it. I think that was it. In, under, takes it. I'm getting closer, maybe. Okay, and here goes. I think so. Yeah, that's it. And so, the self-centered man in Leo, the self-centered man becomes eventually the soul in life expression and focused on the achievement of the spiritual goal of selflessness. Because, you know, heights of notable service are found in this sign and in Aquarius. In this sign, he undergoes preparation for the first initiation and takes it also in this sign or under this sign when it is the rising sign, becoming the lion who seeks his prey. That is the personality who becomes the captive of the soul. And, you know, Leo people have that experience of hunting themselves until they detect what the king of beasts does compared to what the lion of the soul would do. So there's no more the higher lion turns into Hercules in a way, and the lower lion can no longer escape out the back entrance of the cave. So this is it, page 143. He prepares for the first initiation, and he takes it in this sign or under this sign. Excuse me. And under means rising sign, and in means sun sign. Okay. So, you know, you've all chosen signs for which the first initiation can be taken, and the second and the third. But there are some that are very much connected with each initiation. Now, I wonder if I could maybe ask another question. Well, I have to be careful because you know, I think I can get a triangle out of it, but I'll ask you a question. Which ray is most associated with taking the third initiation, and why? Anybody want to venture in?
I am looking for hands.
Fifth,
Yvonne, go ahead.
I just guessed fifth mental ray since it's control of the mental body.
It is the fifth ray, and it doesn't make any difference whether you get it through the mind or the entire personality. It is the fifth ray, which governs in many senses the process of real initiation. So Sanat Kumara begins to wield the fifth ray in relation to the candidate for initiation at the third degree. Which ray is most associated with the fourth initiation, and why?
I'm looking for hands or responses in the chat box.
Anybody?
Joe's hand is raised.
First ray.
Yeah, and that's Joe Garso, right?
Yes,
is that correct?
yes,
and that is correct. And that is correct. And do we have an idea of why this should be the case? I'll give you a hint. It has something to
go
do.
ahead, Joe.
Yeah, Joe. Maybe I don't need to give you a hint.
Okay, I am open. I was having trouble with my sign. I think it's because of the letting go of everything, the Plutonian or perhaps the Vulcan. That has to be so prominent, and well, anyway, yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things there, and you're right. I think you're right about Vulcan. I think one of the monadic rays of Vulcan is ray 4. And we're told about being between a rock and a hard place, you know, at that initiation, to use the slang. And it is the depths of aloneness are fathomed in that particular initiation. You're not on the fixed cross, and you're not on the cardinal cross yet. You're carrying your own cross, and you are you're in a position to experience the maximum degree of conflict with the ordinary human kingdom. As a matter of fact, we're told that the fourth initiation, humanity ejects the initiate, throws the initiate out. So this has to do with that rending process of being torn in, you know, four different directions. but at the same time, the fourth chakra is involved, right? So at this particular initiation, it's not the Ajna center like in the third. It's the fourfold heart center with its four chambers, materializing the four. So the possibility of entering an entirely new plane, the fourth, the Buddhic plane, is with us at that point. We transfer our focus from the mental plane to the Buddhic plane via the heart, which is connected with the Buddhic plane. And first we experience extreme conflict and agony as we are ripped away from our preoccupation with the dense physical body of the planetary logos, and we are transported into his cosmic etheric body on the Buddhic plane, and from that point on have Buddhic consciousness and direct consciousness from the monad. So there are many reasons how this number 4 enters into it. You're still very much the monad of the fourth creative hierarchy, but at the same time you're being separated painfully from the normal human kingdom, not from the normal human hierarchy, the numbers of which are both 4. Fourth human kingdom, separation, fourth creative hierarchy, joining it. Now you would think that if Ray 7 rules the first initiation, which it does, Ray 6, the second initiation, which it does, Ray 5, the third initiation, which it does, and Ray 4, the fourth initiation, which it does, what do you think rules the fifth initiation? What ray? And why?
I'm still looking for hands or responses in the chat box.
I'm still open, Michael. I'm fixated on Pluto right now because its activity in Capricorn and how it relates to my personal chart. So I can't help wondering if Pluto doesn't get involved at
Well,
the 5th.
It definitely does. It definitely does. And as a matter of fact, the chakra, which most focally rules the fifth initiation, is the base of the spine center, with which we know Pluto, first ray Pluto, has a lot to do. So you would think that continuing the series we set up, that the third ray would be connected with the fifth initiation. And indeed, we can find a reference which connects it, surprisingly, because after all, it takes place in a way on the atmic plane, which is the third plane down. But the major ray of the fifth initiation is the first ray, and that correlates with Pluto, and it correlates with the Earth, because the Earth has the first ray monad and rules the base of the spine center in the solar system. So rays 1 and 3 are both involved. And I could continue in this vein. I could ask you, what is the, and of course some of it's academic, strictly academic, but I could ask you the 3 signs which form a triangle for the 5th, 6th, and 7th initiations. And maybe I won't do that because it's a little bit, it's a little bit out there. But basically, let me make a principle here, or at least point to one. If you know the quality, the major quality of every sign and the major quality of every planet, including the rays of the sign and the rays of the planet, you should be able to get a handle on which triangles we can point out as involved in certain processes. So I will just fill that in for the moment. The major signs are Leo, first ray, fifth initiation, Libra, third ray, sixth initiation of decision, and Gemini, second ray, seventh initiation, love, wisdom. Now, how do we know that? Do we need to know that? Well, it's academic. It teaches us how to think, and we can put many pieces of information together and come up with the rays and the signs. Basically, he says the rays are 1, 3, 2, and the signs distributing those rays, we infer, are Leo and certainly Libra with its third ray decision, and Gemini, the head of the cosmic Christ, love, wisdom, second ray, in which the Christ has now completed an aspect of the seventh initiation. Now, those are way out there, but we can ask things that are much closer to home, and I will continue to do that. So, just to test, do we know the qualities of planets and signs in triangular form? Can we put them together in triangular form? And, I think we'll get better at it, for sure. All right. Well, that's going to be it then for now. And let's just close, as we often do, with the Great Invocation number 3. Which is the one, of course, that he wants us to widely distribute, and the one which works, shall we say, at this time to enhance the triangle's work and many other facets of our work. And tomorrow morning, reappearance of the Christ broadcast. And that'll still be 5 a.m. And then I sent you out, if you're a member of I Identify as Being, I sent you out some more seed thoughts, or really seed questions that you can pore over a little bit if you're a member of that group in preparation for what we might be able to discuss about dimension and dimensionlessness, non-dimensionality and dimensionality. It is relevant. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Okay, everybody, thanks for your presence and your meditation and your good thoughts and, questions and so forth. Appreciate your work and, from our whole communications group, lots of love to everybody and many blessings and successful persistence and continuity in this study in depth of the ageless wisdom. This is, I'm sure, what, yeah, okay, I see there have been some other things come in, yes, and yes, thank you. We didn't get to every response here, but thank you for those responses, and they look interesting and correct. And we'll be back tomorrow morning with the broadcast, and then in the evening with the Zoom webinar. And by now we're just using the same link, so you should have that for identify as being, which is when we really go far out there, and then we will, simply continue deepening our knowledge of the ageless wisdom. So this will be ready for you as soon as we can get it, and BL usually is getting it up there. If I do my part, she'll get it up there on Makara, and maybe Joe and Harold will get it up on the YouTube. And there'll be places where you can either tell your friends if they want to participate or, review some of the information that may be given. So we'll be seeing you. Thank you. Bye-bye.